You've tried every haircut tip made for women in their 50s and 60s, but nothing seems to speak to you, does it? Because your hair, your face, your needs at 80 are simply different. Let's fix that together, because your natural elegance deserves better. I research worst style and beauty mistakes and youth-boosting fixes for mature women, so you get simple, proven transformations that work instantly. Today we're perfecting 5 haircuts that make older women look instantly younger after 80. And by part 3, you'll want to pause and look in the mirror. I mean it. Each of these cuts was chosen specifically for softer, thinner, more delicate hair. And the very first one, I see it on 9 out of 10 women who never knew it was possible for them. Let's go. 1. The soft layered crop. Have you ever noticed how the same haircut you wore at 70 suddenly feels heavy, wrong, almost unfamiliar at 80? That is not your imagination. Your hair thins, your face softens, and what once flattered you can quietly start aging you instead. This happens to nearly every woman, and almost nobody explains why. Here is the truth nobody tells you. As hair thins with age, length actually pulls your whole face downward, dragging at the corners of your eyes and mouth. It is not your age doing that. It is the weight of hair you never adjusted. The soft layered crop solves this instantly. It sits just above the shoulder, with soft internal layers that lift instead of drag. Because it removes weight near the crown, your natural volume finally has room to breathe. Here is fix 1. Ask your stylist for layers that start at the cheekbone, not the chin, so movement happens exactly where your eyes need lifting. Fix 2 involves texture. Heavier ends flatten fine hair. So ask for the ends to be point cut, rather than blunt cut for natural softness. Fix 3 is about your part. A slightly off-center part instantly opens the whole face in a way a straight middle part cannot. 4th, consider your fringe. A soft side-swept fringe schemes the forehead without hiding your eyes, which keeps you looking alert and engaged. And 5th, this one surprises people. Ask for slightly shorter layers around the ears. It defines your jawline, something long straight pieces completely erase. Honestly, this is the cut I wish every stylist automatically offered instead of the safe, shapeless bob so many women get handed without ever being asked what they actually wanted. Yes, that's simple. If you're still wearing one length past your shoulders, swap it for this softly layered crop and watch how differently light falls across your face. If you're wearing a blunt fringe, swap it for the side-swept version instead, since blunt bangs age foreheads more than almost any other single choice. Maintenance is easy here. A trim every 8 weeks keeps those internal layers doing their job instead of growing out into a shapeless mass. There is one detail about this cut that changes everything about how your whole face reads on camera, and it takes your stylist exactly 4 minutes to add. That detail is checking your natural fall. Ask your stylist to style it without heat first, so you both see exactly where it naturally lifts before any additional shaping happens. Women who make this one adjustment tell me the same thing every time. They say strangers suddenly start commenting on their eyes again, something that had not happened in years. This one is everything. But there is a second cut that works even better if your hair has started thinning at the crown specifically, and it is one almost no one recommends by name. 2. The volumizing pixie with soft fringe. This one is for you if your crown has started showing more scalp than you'd like to admit out loud. Here's a truth most stylists never say plainly. Thinning at the crown is not simply about density. It is about how light bounces off flat hair sitting close to the scalp. Fix the light, and you fix the appearance of thinning almost instantly. The volumizing pixie with a soft fringe does exactly that. Kept short on the sides, slightly longer and textured on top, it creates lift precisely where you need it most. Fix 1, and this matters enormously. Ask for the crown to be cut with weight lines rather than a single flat plane, since weight lines create the illusion of thickness even on very fine hair. Fix 2 is about the fringe itself. A soft, textured fringe rather than a heavy blunt one keeps the whole style feeling light instead of severe. For Fix 3, request a slight asymmetry between the two sides. Perfect symmetry actually reads as artificial, and can make thin hair look even thinner by comparison. Fix 4 concerns the nape. Keep it neat but never shave too close, since a soft taper there flatters the neck far more than a sharp line does. And Fix 5, ask specifically for texturizing scissors on top rather than a razor, because razors can weaken already fragile strands at this stage of life. You needed to hear this. If you're currently wearing longer layers that you constantly tuck behind your ears out of frustration, swap them for this pixie and feel how much lighter your whole head feels by the end of the first day. If you're using heavy pomades to fake volume, swap that for a lightweight mousse applied only at the roots. For maintenance, ask your colorist about subtle root lifting techniques during your regular color visits, since this compounds the cut's natural lift beautifully. There's a reason women who try this cut often say the same specific thing afterward. They say they finally stopped checking mirrors out of anxiety and started checking them out of pure curiosity about how good it looks. Your bone structure was built for this kind of cut. It simply needed the length removed to finally show itself. But before you commit to anything this short, there's a middle ground option worth knowing about. One that keeps more length while still solving the exact same crown problem. 3. The curtain layered lob. Why does everyone assume that after 80, short is the only option left? That assumption is exactly what keeps so many women locked into cuts that don't actually suit them. Length itself was never the enemy. Shapeless length was. The curtain layered lob sits right at collarbone length, framed by soft face framing layers that part naturally around the center of your face like curtains opening. Here's fix 1. The layers must start high, near the temple, so they immediately soften the upper face rather than only shaping the ends. Fix 2. This length needs movement, so ask for a diagonal forward cut, rather than a straight horizontal line at the bottom. For fix 3, request slightly more layering on one side if your part naturally falls off center, which keeps the frame balanced around your actual features. Fix 4 is subtle but powerful. A few face framing pieces cut shorter than the rest draw the eye upward toward your cheekbones immediately. And fix 5, avoid heavy one length ends entirely here. Since curtain layers depend entirely on graduated movement to look intentional rather than accidental. This one is everything. There is one particular detail about this length that most women discover completely by accident. It photographs beautifully from every single angle, something almost no other length manages so effortlessly. If you're currently growing your hair out with no shape at all, swap that shapelessness for these curtain layers, and watch how instantly more finished everything looks. If your ends are one blunt straight line, swap that for the soft diagonal cut instead. Maintenance here means keeping those face framing pieces trimmed every 6 weeks specifically, even if you stretch the rest of the cut longer between visits. Honestly, this is the cut that finally convinced my own mother that 80 could still mean elegant instead of merely presentable. Women who wear this length tell me their grandchildren started asking to do their hair for family photos again, something that hadn't happened in years. But there's a 4th cut coming that solves a completely different problem, one that has nothing to do with thinning and everything to do with texture that's changed over the decades. 4. The textured silver shag. Your hair texture at 80 is not the same texture you had at 50, and pretending otherwise is where most styling mistakes actually begin. That's the key insight nobody explains. Hair often becomes coarser and more unpredictable with age. Even as it thins, and cuts designed for smooth young hair simply cannot manage that combination. The textured silver shag was built exactly for this. Choppy layers throughout, a slightly tousled finish, and movement that works with unpredictable texture instead of fighting it. Fix 1, request heavily textured layers rather than smooth graduated ones, since texture disguises exactly the kind of frizz and flyaways that come with changing hair. Fix 2 involves length variation. Uneven, choppy pieces throughout actually read as intentional style rather than as a bad hair day, unlike uniform layers which show every imperfection. For fix 3, ask your stylist to cut this style dry rather than wet, since wet cutting on textured mature hair often results in uneven regrowth patterns. Fix 4, embrace a slightly undone finish rather than forcing sleek smoothness, because fighting your natural texture daily is exhausting and ages you faster than the texture itself ever could. And fix 5, request a longer top with shorter under layers, which creates dimension even in completely silver or white hair that can otherwise look flat under bright light. This one is everything. If you've been straightening your hair daily to fight the texture, swap that routine for this shag, and let the natural texture actually work in your favor for once. If you're using heavy serums to smooth flyaways, swap those for a lightweight texturizing spray instead. For maintenance, skip the flat iron entirely, and instead scrunch a small amount of curl cream through damp hair, letting the cut's natural texture do the work for you. There's something almost every woman says after wearing this cut for the first time. They say styling finally stopped feeling like a daily battle and started feeling like 15 effortless minutes. That relief. That is worth more than almost anything else on this list. But there is one final cut left, and it might be the most surprising one of all, because it proves that even the shortest possible length can still look completely elegant. 5. The classic elegant crop. Some women reach 80 and decide they want simplicity above everything else, and there is nothing wrong with that at all. Here's what surprises people about this final cut. Short does not mean plain, and simple does not mean boring, though most short cuts on older women accidentally become both. The classic elegant crop is cut close but never severe, with soft rounded shaping that follows the natural curve of your head, rather than harsh geometric lines. Fix 1. Ask for rounded shaping over the ears rather than a straight blunt line, since rounded edges soften the whole face immediately. Fix 2. Request slightly longer length on top than on the sides, creating gentle height without any dramatic volume that feels unnatural. For Fix 3, avoid completely shaved nape lines, and instead ask for a soft tapered finish that photographs elegantly from behind at family gatherings. Fix 4 involves your fringe again, but this time swept fully to one side and blended rather than cut with any hard line. And Fix 5, this is the detail people miss most. Ask your stylist to leave slightly more length directly at the crown, since this is where volume matters most as hair thins with age. You needed to hear this. There is one thing about this particular cut that took me completely by surprise the first time I researched it. It requires almost no daily styling at all, just a light finger comb through after washing, which makes it the lowest maintenance option on this entire list. If you've been getting the exact same shortcut for years without any updates, swap it for these rounded, softer lines and notice how much less severe your whole reflection feels. If you're still using a straight razor at your nape, swap that for soft tapering scissors instead. For maintenance, a trim every 5 to 6 weeks keeps this shape from growing out into something shapeless and undefined. Honestly, out of everything on this list, this is the cut women write to me about the most, saying strangers finally started asking who does their hair. Your natural elegance was always there. This cut simply stopped hiding it. Now before we wrap up completely, there are 3 cuts on the opposite end of this list, the ones you'll want to avoid no matter how tempting they look in photos. You just learned 5 haircuts specifically chosen for hair that has thinned, changed texture, and evolved after 80, something most women spend years figuring out through trial and error alone. Boom, your bone structure was always this stunning. Now it finally shows. Tell me which of these 5 cuts matches what your hair actually needs right now. Next time we're tackling the exact cuts that quietly add 10 years the moment you sit in the chair. Like this video, subscribe to Timeless Wisdom Path, and I'll see you in the next one.